Okay, what is up, my friends, my dudes? Um, wow, we just had the solstice. I'm sitting now and the sun literally just came out, which feels really exciting. It's been gray the last 2 days up here in Cincinnati, where I have been stationed. I have a few things developing. I guess that is happening in the background. So I have been in Cincinnati with my parents at their temporary living right now, just squatting with them. And I start a new contract, a nursing contract in St. Louis, July 3rd. So I actually moved to St. Louis the July 1st. And I say move very loosely because my contract is for 3 months. So as you've been kind of following me, or if you've just tuned in, I spent the whole last year traveling, and I continue to do so very loosely with the next moves I make. It's just even 3 months right now feels really, really long term, even though it's short term. So it's just interesting. I was doing a lot of reflection on my first nursing travel assignment and kind of what feelings I was feeling when I first, quit my full time nursing job and went into traveling. And if you're not in the healthcare space, travel nursing is like you don't work for the hospital, you work for an agency, and your contracts are 3 months long generally, and you sign on for a contract and you work for that contract wherever location you're at, and you just fill in a void, you fill in a space for that time, and then when your contract's done, your job's done, you're free again until you decide to pick up and start another contract. So I remember the feelings as I was reflecting back of like how things have changed, how I've changed within this last year, and it really just started to like really make me think about this even more and more because I'm like doing another contract in nursing. So I took a whole year off of being on the floor, being a nurse as I was traveling. And now as I'm jumping back into that again, I met with a lot of um, what I would consider maybe the shadowy parts of myself, where I originally, when I started to be on my spiritual path and stuff, I really shied away from like identifying that I was a nurse. I wanted to give it all up. I'm super into obviously like the holistic side of things, the energy side of things, the different ways we can heal through food and through energy, and really step away from like the mainstream healthcare system. And I really wanted to stifle that part of myself off. I wanted to like chop it off, not recognize all the years that I spent in healthcare as a nurse, and I just didn't want to resonate with it. Didn't want to talk about it, and I didn't ever want to do it again. Is what I thought. And I'm wondering if anybody else is really feeling any of this, and obviously it could be not for nursing for you, it could be something else, but is it something in your life that you want to kind of ignore, that you no longer want to identify with yourself, that you feel like you feel kind of shameful about, you don't want to recognize it, you want to keep it in a box, you don't want to bring it up, you don't want to be known for it, maybe it's in the past, or I don't know, whatever comes to mind. For me, in a weird way, someone who, I'm sure you're listening to this, you're like, why would you be ashamed of that? But for me, it really felt like that. It was something that I really wanted to just dissociate with myself. I just didn't want to identify as being a nurse anymore. And I didn't want to be a nurse. I thought that it was just so opposite the way that I want to continue my life. And there was a shift that happened within me, of this pure 100% self acceptance and seeing myself in all aspects of myself. And I had to be honest, I was like, this is a huge part of my life. This is a huge part of me. And, my knowledge isn't not valid, even though I'm learning all these different alternative ways of healing. I can still integrate this part of myself. And this is what I guess I'm the root of what I'm here to talk about is that integration piece of any aspect that we think that is outside of ourselves or that we don't want to recognize or that we don't want to, maybe it's a part of your personality or a part of yourself that you're just like, oh, if this just one thing wasn't there, or if I didn't do this one thing, or if I didn't think this way, or if I didn't have these patterns or whatever, then I would be like, over free bitches kind of thing. Like, then, like, oh my gosh. And for a long time throughout that whole year of traveling, I really just like didn't like telling people that I was a nurse. Like, it felt really just not resonant with me. And I just felt like, oh, kind of icky about it. And I wanted to just be this more alternative, holistic person. And I really struggled with, going back to nursing and going back to mainstream healthcare when I've been so interested in the opposite. And the integration piece, the reflection piece, has kind of, it took me a while to get to this point of like, yes, this is a huge part of me, but yes, this also is a huge part of me. And I need to accept this piece. And I think that's also how we can, as I was in the East, learning about all different like Kundalini yoga and breath work and herbs and Ayurvedic medicine and all these things, I think that all of that has a lot of value, just as much value as Western medicine does. And I'm sure countless of people have figured this out and have their own way of integrating this. But I think there's value in both. And we need to, in order to change, the systems of doing things or having that higher consciousness thoughts or frequency energy within these older systems, we need to have different vibrations shake that up within. So it's like, not that having a higher consciousness or having a higher perspective of things or being more interested in like the new earth energies or having a spiritual awakening and having a like, oh my gosh, everything that I have learned or thought I knew is wrong or is not what I thought it was going to be. It doesn't mean that you have to totally exit the system. You can revamp the system within. So whatever your industry is, maybe you're in finance or healthcare or I don't know, therapies or any kind of sort of, if you're working with different people or if you're, working in a coffee shop or any job that you're doing right now that you think that isn't in resonance for you, I would challenge you this, and this is where I have been challenging myself. I challenge you to think about how you can bring your own individual unique frequency into that space, into that job. Rewiring literally the way that you might do things, just that one-on-one with customers or with patients, or how are you going to interact in the system differently? How can you provide different ways to do things? Maybe there is a different way that you can shift within whatever you're doing that you thought wasn't in, that you no longer thought was in resonance with you. How can you shift that? And that's kind of what I have to do when I was thinking about going back into a nursing contract. And I'm gonna be honest, like I really struggled with this. Like I really just didn't want to be a pill pusher. And I still think that there is a lot, there's so much more that we're finding out with different pharmaceuticals and medications and unnecessary surgeries that is just super unnecessary and unnecessary to take these, different medications when we have a whole different way of dealing with things holistically. But I don't think that discounts different pros or also the value that you have in this type of medicine too, because you can have these different things that come up that you actually do need medication for short term, or you do need help with with different surgeries. But it's about like finding that balance between the things. So I guess I just wanted to be upfront and honest with kind of like where I'm at in the struggle that I am going back and being a nurse for these next 3 months. And I'm wondering if anybody else is feeling that kind of resistance with whatever they're doing. Like, I feel like I am going to be learning a different way of doing things or learning a different system or kind of, helping in a different way that I am or have done before. It's this feeling that is like on the verge of discovering something, but I don't really know what that is yet. So it's like I feel like I'm in this in between kind of space of like, this is what I want to do, but not quite. But also, this is who I was, but also not quite. So it's kind of reframing wherever you're at in the perspective that you want to carry. So I could go into this being like, fuck this. I don't want to be back to this. This is going to be terrible. This is, you didn't want to do this in the start. And really just have that mental chatter talk of just really talking down to yourself of like, what you're doing wrong or what you're not doing right and all these different things. Or I can go into it and say, okay, we're going to carry a new perspective and a new take, a new frequency at this. We're going to look at these, this differently. How can you maybe interact with patients this time in a different way and open people up to, healing on different levels while working with them in the healthcare system. So this is kind of where I'm like learning how to bridge these two aspects of myself and kind of bring this nursing part back in and not like sever this piece from myself, but like integrate it. It's like almost, I feel like my nursing side is like almost like my shadow side, where it's just like, oh, this is like the dark way of doing things. And I want to do something that's just light and, give energetic support and things like that. And really it's, that's the whole point of like recognizing our shadow and then bringing light to it by integrating it back in and being like, no, this is also a part of me. So it's just like this weird thing that I feel like this kind of struggle with. And maybe you're in the struggle right now with what you're doing for work or where you're living or who you're with or whatnot. And I think before that you're really able to make any kind of shift in the physical, I think the energetic shift is almost more important first for you to reframe and rethink about your perspective within it. Because that's what, for me, that's what like raising your consciousness and waking up or waking up other people or helping other people wake up is literally about providing different perspectives and listening to people's other perspectives and kind of broadening that scope of how you're thinking about things. So you could be so narrow-minded of like, oh, this is means this person's doing this, or I'm doing this again. I can't believe I'm doing this again. This is another pattern. Or you can say, oh no, I'm at this pattern again, or I'm doing this thing again, or I'm, for me, in nursing again, but I'm not there at the same point. It's like that upward spiral of healing when you have maybe a certain event happen to you and you're like, oh, this is just what happened again. I can't believe this came up. But it could be there for you again to see where you have healed, where you have more healing to do, to show you how much you've actually grown. And so this is like the spot that I'm in on, heading into this contract of seeing where I can think about this mentally in a different way, in a different energetic way, and see what I can offer the unit, my patients, the situation, the city, the new city that I'm in. I don't know what St. Louis has to offer me, but it all happened quite quickly, and it all happened in the most alignment that I feel now of just being like, yep, I'm going to do that. That feels right. And then it's funny how your instincts and your intuition give you the quick answer. And then your mind starts to like, but why St. Louis? But why this person? But why are we doing this? And what doesn't this feel like it starts to like you start to question yourself on the thing that you already decided by your gut instinct. So it was like a gut instinct for me when this opportunity came forward, and it wasn't that I didn't actually apply for this position. I was applying for other things, and then this one was just like popped up from my recruiter, and I was just like, yeah, just whatever, just apply, apply to whatever came through, whatever. And this is the one that came forward first. And when it came forward, he sent the offer to me. Immediately, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do it. And then my brain started to be like, well, why St. Louis and why this floor? And why should I, why am I doing nursing again? And really overthinking the things. And that's how we can really stress ourselves out, is by like overthinking our thinking, like overthinking the decisions that we may already have made, that we start to then question our own instinct and questioning our own gut intuition, and then backing ourselves out of that initial instinct because we're thinking about all these other things. So I guess that's another thing, is just really trusting your first initial instinct about whatever situation you're going through, and just honoring that and just being like, I don't know why logically, but this just makes sense for me right now. My instinct is to go here, to do this, to be with this person, to not be with this person, to have this job, to not have this job, or whatnot. And that's just kind of, the pattern that has come up for me right now. And it's challenging me right now to look at things differently than I would have maybe a half a year ago, still not really wanting to associate with this nursing side. So I know that I have to integrate this back in within myself. I know that this has something to do with the aspect of another piece of my mission. And it's just being kind of clear on that. And it's allowing that in between space to kind of happen and not really judge on what's happening right now, but allowing that to be an in between, and allowing you to bring your new perspective, your new frequency, your new energy to maybe that old relationship or that old job or the old place or whatever it is for you. For me, it's the old job that I wanted to so badly never do again. And I'm realizing kind of, where did that even start? Like, why was I even feeling those things? And how can I recreate? Or maybe I'm also going to have an idea of, different things, different programs. Who knows? You don't really know until you put yourself there and you trust the instinct of wherever you feel called to be or called to do or whatever. So I wanted to share that with you. Maybe this resonates. I'm curious to see if you're in a spot right now that feels like, oh, why am I here again? And yeah, I would love to hear what that is for you personally. And if you are here again and you're thinking that, how can you bring a new sense of healing, perspective, or energy towards this thing and actually honor it in your life for why it is here? So, yeah, it's a lot of honoring the feelings that I'm feeling, honoring the part of myself that wanted to not be this, honoring the feelings that came up and why, and really questioning myself, why did I feel like I had the original resistance to this? And how can I transmute that, show up differently, and be creative within the field, be creative within your relationship or the job or whatever you're feeling like, oh my God, why am I here again? So that's where I'm at in the solstice, the beginning of the solstice, and we're going to just sort it out. We'll see what happens next. So, anyways, if this resonates with you, or if this hits a chord that you think will resonate with somebody else, feel free to send it to them. Reach out to me on Instagram, and let me know what you're currently working through too.